Labrador.
Somebody asked me while we were gone if incarnation had anything at all to do with those little matchsticks you used to put down into a tin of milk before the refrigerator came along to Newfoundland, which is fairly recently, by the way. When I was growing up over on Atlantic Avenue, there was a woman who had a refrigerator. She was like the star of the neighborhood, a Frigidaire, it was called. Everybody else had ice boxes or put the stuff, the milk and the butter, out in the porch. Anyway, all of that has nothing to do with the gentleman you're going to see now. If you follow the scene in Ottawa, you would know this person. Most people in the province would know him instantly, except this was taken a very, very long time ago when he was involved in the labor movement, particularly involved with the Newfoundland Teachers Association. Who is this man?
Frederick Paul from labor movement. He was the man who destroyed the two-party system in Newfoundland. He will not go down in history as the man who destroyed the two-party system, but as the man who showed that the political party system could work so well that he got the other people off the rear end and got them organizing as well. And that's what we need, a good, strong two-party system in Newfoundland.
Well, in case you didn't know it, that was Roger Simmons. And this is Lord Taylor of Harlow. Now, I know what Lord Taylor is doing here. This is the opening, or the announcement of the opening, of the Harlow campus of Memorial University. Well, let's listen to him for just a little bit.
We have to have what's called a bill of quantities before we call for tenders, which is a very elaborate listing of all the building works that has to be done and with all the items included. And this takes rather longer to do than the Canadian.
I asked them, sir, if there is a possibility of a scholarship program to make this happen.
It would be splendid if there were, but we have two and a half years to think about this and to persuade our friends on both sides of the Atlantic that this might be a very good thing to do.
You said that the original idea came about because the need to give engineering students some practical experience. Is this basically an engineering school?
No, it ought to be. I hope it'll be a good mixture. Because, first of all, I don't think it's good to have a one-faculty school of any kind. I think in any kind of college, it's good to mix students out of different faculties. But it was that first gave me, at any rate, the idea that this would be a good thing to do. I may say I'd always been interested in the question of how to strengthen Commonwealth links for a very long time, and I had in fact been interested in the possibility of having something in the nature of a Commonwealth university, but this was something that proved impractical because every developing Commonwealth country wants to develop its own undergraduate school, and fair enough, so it should. But one felt that the existing British schools were not entirely suitable for Commonwealth students, particularly from developing countries. This was how I got interested in the subject, and then when I was asked by your Premier to consider coming here, I raised the question of how we were going to train the future engineers of Memorial, and we began to think about this possibility.
The late Lord Taylor of Harlow. We're going to have a look at waterfront in St. John's, the arrival of this vessel. It was a tanker, the Frank D. Moores. Oil is something that seems to crop up in the library, the CJON archives, every few years or so. The promise of wealth beyond dreams. Cameras took themselves down to the waterfront to shoot this tanker, which of course had something to do with Come By Chance, and if it wasn't Come By Chance, then certainly it was the oil refinery in Holyrood. And in latter days, of course, if the Frank D. Moores or someone else like her was imported, it'd have to do with Hibernia. Always something that seems to be just beyond our grasp. We continue in St. John's, downtown, and a scene that has been shot so many times in the past 20 or 30 years. The classic people walking scene is the name on it. The story could have related to Christmas shopping. We see some Christmas items in the windows. And of course the liquor store, which relates to Christmas as well. Well, it is Christmas. This is a little bit of gag film. Somebody putting a parcel into an old Chev. This is up in Buckmaster Circle by our old station. And some newsman, obviously a newsman, they're the type of people who do this, picking up the package and slinking off. Doesn't say much in terms of humor. Okay, this is going to blow you away. It's the changing of cigarette prices. And it shows some filling up of the machine. Somebody buys a pack of cigarettes, pack of Export A, it looks like, A's, eh? What else was in that machine? Salem. Cigarettes were there, because there's a pack of Salem appears a little bit later on, but they zero in on the price, right there by the 20. Cigarettes have gone up to 90 cents a pack. Goodness gracious. You know, this wasn't that long ago, sometime in the early 70s, and I can tell that from this particular piece that we're looking at. It has something to do with publications, but it has more to do with length of skirts and things like that, which would tell you that it's the 70s, probably early 70s. Oh, this is great. A couple of airport pieces now, one from St. John's and then something that will just knock your socks off from Gander. This is the airport at St. John's before it was fully renovated. And this was the completion, I think, of phase one. That's when the carousel, the baggage carousel, was still outside. There's a couple of interesting points you can look at here. One of them is, of course, there's no ramp connecting the plane to the terminal directly. And the other is that there is no security area. Of course, the early 70s were a much less troubled time. And it wasn't necessary to have what is airtight security these days. If not airtight, pretty well close to it. Ought to say a word about the cameraman here, because he is just all over the place. It looks like a scene from Friday the 13th, part 3 or something. I shouldn't say these things. Anyway, one of the things that we did connected to airports, I mentioned Gander a couple of moments ago, is we covered a royal visit. Now, it wasn't a royal visit in the sense of a 14-day stay by the Queen, but she dropped into Gander for 45 minutes, and the late Mike Roberts and Sylvia Wigg were on hand.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Mike Roberts with Sylvia Wigg reporting to you from outside Gander International Airport on the occasion of the arrival of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip here at Gander for a very brief stay. I don't know if you can hear me now over the stream of the jet engines on this mammoth plane, this brand new PC-10 aircraft, BOAC Cunard airliner. This is the first time that such an airliner has crossed the Atlantic, and as you can see, the plane is flying the Royal Standard. Right at the moment, there seems to be just a little delay while the Ram truck is getting up to the aircraft. And while we have a moment here as the door is opening, we might tell you that this aircraft was held up for at least a half an hour at London Airport this morning due to a bomb scare. However, they found there was no bomb. The aircraft took off, and of course it has arrived here at exactly on time at 11:45 a.m. As you can see now, the dignitaries are going out to the aircraft, and I turn you over now to Sylvia Wigg to fill you in a little more on what's going on. Sylvia?
Thanks, Mike. Good morning, everybody. Well, it's a little difficult to describe what the ladies are wearing because we're in a small snow flurry here. I see Mrs. O'Day looking very smart in a dark brown fur coat. I think it's a lamb with a gray fur hat, probably a Newfoundland seal hat. Mrs. Russell is wearing a light fur coat. Both ladies are wearing very high boots, fur hats. They look very smart. The gentlemen, of course, are all just dressed for snow. It's a little chilly here. We've been walking around outside, and there's been a great deal of activity out here in the ramps with all sorts of equipment, clearing it off. Of course, the terminal is jam-packed with people, led by 1,800 school children clutching flags and all ready to wave and cheer. They had a holiday this morning, and this, of course, is occasion now for all the school children to cheer. I'll turn you back to Mike Roberts now as the ramp is being moved into position, and of course everybody's straining for the first look of the Royal Lady as she steps off onto Gander for her second trip, I believe, to Gander. Is that right, Mark?
Yes, that's right, Sylvia. I believe Her Majesty was here in Gander in 1959 when she officially opened this beautiful new air terminal here. And as a matter of fact, I believe the terminal is named after her, this terminal building. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, the ramp is being brought up closer to the aircraft, and the many hundreds, even thousands, I would suspect, of people around here. And ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, Her Majesty the Queen, followed by Prince Philip, are now leaving the aircraft and coming down onto the ramp where they are being met by the dignitaries. Among them, the Lieutenant Governor, the Honorable Fabian O'Day and Mrs. O'Day, and Premier Smallwood, I believe, is also there. Sylvia, you know more of these people than I do. Perhaps you would fill our audience in on it.
Yes, well, of course, there's Mrs. Russell, who is taking the place of Mrs. Smallwood. There's Captain Shea, and there are, I think, there's some local dignitaries here from Gander. The Queen, we just saw briefly coming down. She's surrounded by people. She's wearing a dark fur coat, but a beautiful, it looks like a peacock blue hat. I strongly suspect it might be velvet or feathers. It's a very pretty hat, very lovely color, but again, it follows the pattern of all the hats that the Queen wears. It's small and rather head-hugging. I'm not sure if she's wearing boots. If she isn't, she's going to get rather wet feet walking across the ramp because it's very wet. Yes, she has a very smart, lovely blue hat. It's a sort of a peacock blue, and Prince Philip, of course, is walking behind her, looking very dashing in a light camel coat and a brown hat worn at the jaunty angle, which only he can wear. Premier Smallwood is walking along side by side with the royal couple, followed by Mrs. O'Day, and the Mount is standing around clicking to a very smart salute. They actually are the only people providing color here this morning, because most of us are draped to the eyes in fur coats and scarves and what have you to keep out the weather. Now they go into the terminal.
Majesty Queen Elizabeth, accompanied by the Lieutenant Governor Fabian O'Day, Prince Philip and Mrs. O'Day, Premier Smallwood, and other dignitaries, are now leaving the Gander International Air Terminal building after a stay of, well, just 50 minutes, I believe. No, exactly 50.
That is, of course, Mike Roberts, the late Mike Roberts, and Sylvia Wigg. And you see the different style of broadcasting, talking about Philip and I, Her Majesty, as and what she's wearing, a light blue this and a powder. Anyway, we'll take a short pause. We'll be right back with a little good news. Do not go away. More to come.